Dr. Kim Dae-ho rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the computer screen again. The numbers were still there, glowing bright against the dark background. For the past 3 hours he had been staring at the same signal, trying to understand what it meant. The space station floated quietly around Neptune, far from Earth and all its noise. This was the perfect place to listen for sounds from deep space. Kim worked here with 4 other people, and they spent their days looking for signs of life among the stars. "Min-soo, come look at this," Kim called to his friend across the room. Park Min-soo walked over, carrying a cup of hot coffee. He was the best engineer on the station, and Kim trusted him more than anyone else. Min-soo looked at the screen and made a soft whistling sound. "That's not normal," Min-soo said. "Where did it come from?" "The Vega system," Kim replied. "About 25 light-years away. But look at these patterns. I've never seen anything like this." The signal was not like the simple radio waves that humans usually sent into space. This was something much more complex. It had layers and patterns that seemed to follow rules that Kim did not understand. The mathematics were beyond anything he had learned in school. Captain Lee So-ra heard their voices and walked over. She was the station commander, a strong woman who had served in the military for many years. She looked at the screen with sharp eyes. "Is this what I think it is?" she asked. "If you think it's a message from another world, then yes," Kim said. "But there's something strange about it. The signal is not meant for us." So-ra raised her eyebrows. "What do you mean?" Kim pointed at different parts of the signal on his screen. "Look here. The message starts with mathematical concepts, but they're not using our math. They're using something else, something more advanced. And here at the beginning there's what looks like an address." "An address?" Min-soo asked. "Like when you send a letter," Kim explained. "This message is addressed to someone, but not to humans. The mathematical signature is for a different kind of mind." Dr. Choi Jae-wook, the youngest member of their team, had been listening from his desk. He was brilliant with numbers and physics even though he was only 29 years old. He came over and studied the signal. "This is impossible," Jae-wook said after a few minutes. "The mathematics they're using, it's like they understand parts of the universe that we haven't discovered yet." Han Bo-ra, who was working on her own computer nearby, looked up. She was the best at finding patterns in data, and her skills had helped them solve many puzzles before. "Can I see it?" she asked. Kim moved aside so Bo-ra could sit at his computer. Her fingers moved quickly over the keyboard, and new windows opened on the screen. She was breaking the signal into smaller pieces, looking for hidden patterns. "Oh, my," she said quietly. "There's so much more here than we thought." For the next hour, the 5 humans worked together to understand the alien signal. Slowly, piece by piece, they began to see what it really was. The message was a warning. "It's from something called the Veltar," Bo-ra said, reading from her computer. "They're in trouble. Something is coming for them. Something they call the Devourers." Kim felt a chill run down his back. Devourers. "According to this," Bo-ra continued, "the Devourers don't just destroy planets or kill people. They eat entire star systems. They consume the basic forces that hold everything together." So-ra crossed her arms. "How can you be sure that's what it says?" "The mathematics don't lie," Jae-wook said. "Once you understand their number system, the message becomes clear. The Veltar are dying, and they're sending this warning to their friends among the stars." Min-soo walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "But if this message isn't for us, who is it for?" "Someone else," Kim said. "Another species that thinks like the Veltar. Someone who understands their advanced mathematics." "But we understood it," Bo-ra pointed out. "It took us a few hours, but we figured it out." Kim nodded slowly. "That's what worries me. We shouldn't have been able to understand this at all. The mathematics are too advanced for humans. We're still fighting wars on our own planet, and we've barely started exploring space. How did we solve this puzzle?" The room became quiet. Outside the window, the stars continued to shine, beautiful and distant. But now those stars seemed different, more dangerous. Somewhere out there, An entire civilization was dying, and creatures called devourers were consuming star systems. "What do we do?" Minsu asked. Sora looked at each of her team members. "We should report this to Earth Command. Let the smart people back home figure out what it means." "Wait," Kim said. "What if we answered?" Everyone stared at him. "Answered?" Sora asked. "You want to answer a message that wasn't sent to us?" "Think about it," Kim said, getting excited. "We received their signal and we understood it. Maybe that means something. Maybe we're supposed to help. Or maybe we're supposed to mind our own business," Sora replied. "This is not our fight." "But what if it becomes our fight?" Jawook asked. "If these devourers are real and if they really do consume star systems, then eventually they might come here." Bora looked at the signal again. "The message contains coordinates," she said. "Not just where it came from, but where the devourers are going next," and she paused, checking her calculations. "And the path they're following leads toward our part of the galaxy." The room became very quiet again. Minsu returned from the window. "How long do we have?" "If the devourers move at the speed the message suggests," Bora said, "they'll reach the next star system in about 50 years. After that?" She shrugged. "It depends on how fast they move and which direction they choose." Kim stood up and began walking around the room. "We have to respond. We have to tell the Veltar that someone received their message." "Even though we're not who they wanted to talk to?" Sora asked. "Especially because of that," Kim said. "They sent a message into the darkness hoping someone would hear. We heard it, we understood it, that has to mean something." Sora thought for a long moment. She was responsible for everyone on the station, and she knew that answering the alien message could change everything for humanity. But she also knew that Kim was right. Sometimes you had to do what was right, even when it was dangerous. "Okay," she said finally. "We'll send a response. But we do this carefully and we do it together." The 5 humans spent the rest of the night working on their answer. They used the same mathematical language as the original message, but they added something new. Human mathematics, human physics, and human thinking. When they finally sent their response into space, traveling toward the Vega system at the speed of light, they had no idea that they had just changed the future of every living thing in the galaxy. The signal was not for humans, but they had answered anyway. And that answer would soon bring visitors that would challenge everything humanity thought they knew about the universe. 3 weeks had passed since the Neptune station sent their answer into space. Dr. Kim Dae-ho could not sleep well anymore. Every night he wondered if they had made the right choice. Every day he watched the stars and waited for something to happen. On Earth, things had become very busy. The governments of the world were meeting in emergency sessions. Scientists were arguing about what the alien signal meant. Military leaders were making plans for war, even though they did not know who they might fight. Ambassador Yoon Taemin had been chosen to speak for all humans if the aliens ever answered back. He was a calm man who had spent his life helping different countries talk to each other. Now he might have to help different species talk to each other. "Any word from Neptune Station today?" Yoon asked General Nam Hyun-woo. The general was in charge of Earth's military response to the alien situation. "Nothing yet," Nam replied. "But our deep space monitors are picking up strange activity near the edge of the solar system. Something is coming." Dr. Seo Yoon-ji looked up from her desk. She was a language expert who had been studying the alien mathematics for weeks. "If something is coming, I hope they're friendly. The more I study their signal, the more I realize how advanced they are." "More advanced than us?" Yoon asked. "Much more," Yoon-ji said. "Their mathematics are based on ideas we haven't even discovered yet. They understand parts of physics that our best scientists can only dream about." At that moment, alarms began ringing. Throughout the Earth Command Center, red lights flashed and people started running to their stations. "Sir," a young officer called to General Nam, "we're getting a massive signal from space. It's huge." On the main screen, waves of light appeared. The signal was so strong that it was causing interference with satellites around Earth. But unlike the first message from the Veltar, this signal was clearly meant for humans. "Can we understand it?" Yoon asked. Yunji was already working on her computer. It's using the same mathematical language as before, but she paused, her face becoming pale. Oh no. What is it? Nam asked. They're angry, Yunji said quietly. Very angry, and scared. The translation came through slowly. The message was from something called the HFY Alliance. They were not just one species, but 12 different alien races working together. And they were not happy that humans had answered the Veltar signal. Why are they angry? Yoon asked. We were trying to help. More of the message came through. Yoonji read it with growing fear. They say we should not have been able to understand the Veltar signal. They say it's impossible. The mathematics required are too advanced for any species that hasn't. She stopped reading and looked at the others. Hasn't what? Nam demanded. Hasn't given up individual thinking. Yoonji finished. According to them, only species that think as one mind can understand those mathematical concepts. Yoon felt confused. But we do think as individuals. We argue all the time. We can't agree on anything. That's exactly what scares them, Yoonji said. The message continued. The HFY Alliance explained that they were the survivors of many worlds that had been destroyed by the Devourers. For thousands of years, they had been running from star system to star system, always staying ahead of the creatures that ate entire suns. How many species have they lost? Nam asked. Yoonji was quiet for a moment as she read. Hundreds, maybe thousands. The Devourers have been moving across the galaxy for millions of years. Every time a civilization gets in their way, it gets consumed. What exactly are these Devourers? Yoon asked. The answer came in the next part of the message. The Devourers were not just destroyers. They were something much worse. They could change reality itself. When they arrived at a star system, they didn't just break planets apart. They changed the basic rules of physics, making it impossible for life to exist. That's impossible, Nam said. Not according to the HFY, Yoonji replied. They've seen it happen. Entire star systems just stop working. The gravity changes. The light from the stars becomes poisonous, and space itself becomes twisted. But the most frightening part of the message was still coming. The HFY explained that the original Veltar signal was a final goodbye. The Veltar were already dead. Their star system had been consumed 3 weeks ago, right around the time that humans had sent their answer. We were too late, Yoon said, sadly. No, Yoonji said, reading more of the message. That's not the worst part. The worst part is that our answer told the Devourers where to find us. The room became very quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. By answering the Veltar signal, humans had drawn the attention of the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. How long do we have? Nam asked. The message doesn't say, Yoonji replied. But the HFY are sending a ship to meet with us. They want to understand how we could read the Veltar signal when it should have been impossible. 3 days later, the alien ship arrived. It was unlike anything humans had ever seen. Instead of metal and engines, it seemed to be made of crystallized light. It moved without any visible means of power, and it was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. The ship stopped near the moon, and the aliens sent another message. They wanted to meet with human representatives, but they were still afraid and confused. They kept asking the same question. How did humans understand the mathematical language? Ambassador Yoon, General Nam, and Dr. Yoonji took a shuttle to meet the aliens. The meeting place was a small space station that had been built quickly for this historic moment. When the airlocks opened and the first alien stepped through, the humans gasped. The creature looked like it was made of flowing water and starlight. It had no fixed shape, but somehow they could tell it was looking at them. I am keeper of memories for the HFY Alliance, the alien said without moving what might have been a mouth. The words appeared directly in their minds. I speak for 12 species and the ghosts of 1,000 more. I am Ambassador Yoon Tai-min, Yoon replied. I speak for humanity. Humanity, the alien repeated. The impossible species. Why do you call us impossible? Yoonji asked. The alien's form shifted. showing what might have been confusion. You answered the Veltar signal. You understood harmonic resonance theory, but you should not exist. We don't understand, Nam said. Every species in the galaxy must choose, the alien explained. They can remain individuals and stay primitive, or they can join minds and become advanced. Individual thinking and advanced mathematics cannot exist together. It is a law of nature. But we did understand your mathematics, Yoon pointed out. Yes, the alien said, and its form showed what looked like fear. And that terrifies us. If the rules of nature can be broken, then nothing is certain anymore. If humans can do the impossible, then perhaps the devourers can be stopped. The alien paused, and when it spoke again, its mental voice was very quiet. But that would mean going to war against creatures that eat reality itself, and in all the millions of years that the devourers have existed, no species has ever survived fighting them. The humans looked at each other. They were beginning to understand that their simple act of answering a signal not meant for them had changed everything. The galaxy was watching them now, hoping that the impossible species might find an impossible solution. But first, they had to survive long enough to try. Admiral Oh Sung-jin stood in the command center of Earth's newest space station. It floated between Mars and Jupiter, built quickly as a meeting place between humans and aliens. Around him, his best officers worked at their computers, preparing for the most important meeting in human history. Status report, Oh said to his aide. The Kethva Alliance ships arrived 1 hour ago, Colonel Ryu Hee-jin replied. 12 different vessels, each one representing a different alien species. They're waiting for our signal to begin the meeting. Oh nodded. He was 55 years old and had spent his life protecting Earth from human enemies. Now he had to protect it from something much worse. Dr. Baek Chan-ho looked up from his workstation. The young scientist had been studying alien mathematics for months, and his discoveries had shocked everyone. At only 27 years old, he understood things that the galaxy's oldest species found mysterious. Admiral, Chan-ho said, I've finished my analysis of their communication methods. I think I know why they're so upset about us answering their signal. Explain, Oh replied. It's like this, Chan-ho said, walking to a large screen. Imagine you sent a letter to your best friend, but a stranger read it and wrote back. That would be surprising, right? But now imagine the stranger was a baby, and the letter was written in advanced mathematics that only university professors should understand. Engineer Lim Dong-woo laughed from his corner of the room. So, we're the babies in this situation? Exactly, Chan-ho said. To them, we're babies who somehow learned to read university-level math. It scares them because it shouldn't be possible. The communication system beeped, and voices filled the room. The Kethva Alliance was ready to talk. Admiral Oh walked to the center of the room where cameras would show him to the aliens. Around him, his team prepared to make history. This is Admiral Oh Sung-jin of Earth, he said clearly. We are ready to begin. The main screen lit up, showing 12 different alien forms. Some looked like the flowing water creature they had met before. Others were completely different. Creatures made of crystal, beings that looked like living fire, and shapes that hurt human eyes to look at directly. We are the Kethva Alliance, they spoke together, their voices joining in a harmony that sounded like music. We represent the last survivors of 2,000 destroyed worlds. We understand your loss, Oh replied, and we want to help. Help? The aliens sounded confused. You cannot help. No individual thinking species has ever been able to help. That is why we are so disturbed by your response to the Veltar signal. Dr. Chan-ho stepped forward. May I ask you something? Speak, impossible human. You keep saying that individual thinking and advanced mathematics cannot exist together, but we proved that's not true. So maybe other things you believe are also not true. The aliens were quiet for a long moment. When they spoke again, their voices sounded worried. Explain what you mean. Chan-ho smiled and walked to his computer. Watch this, he said, and began typing rapidly. Numbers and equations filled the screen, the same type of mathematics that the Veltar had used in their signal. This is harmonic resonance theory, Chanho said. Your most advanced mathematical concept. You say only species with joined minds can understand it. That is correct, the aliens replied. It requires the thinking power of an entire civilization working as one mind. But I'm just one person, Chanho said, and I solved this equation in 3 different ways. Want to see? The screen changed, showing 3 separate solutions to the same problem. Each solution was completely different, but they all gave the same answer. The aliens made sounds that the translation system couldn't understand. Finally, they spoke again. How is this possible? 3 different approaches should not work. Mathematics has only one correct path. Not for humans, Chanho replied. We solve problems by trying many different ideas at the same time. We argue. We disagree. We try crazy things that shouldn't work. And sometimes that gives us answers that no one else can find. Colonel Ryu stepped forward. That's how we do everything. In battle, we don't all think the same way. Each soldier has different ideas, different skills. That makes us unpredictable. Unpredictable, the aliens repeated, as if the word tasted strange. We do not understand this concept. Admiral O saw his chance. That's exactly why we might be able to help you with the Devourers. The Devourers cannot be stopped, the alien said immediately. We have tried for millions of years. Every plan we make, they counter. Every strategy we use, they defeat. They are too powerful. But have you ever tried being unpredictable? O asked. We do not know how, the aliens admitted. When 12 species join their minds together, they cannot be unpredictable. Joined minds think logically, efficiently, perfectly, but they think the same way every time. Engineer Lim laughed. Well, humans are definitely not logical or efficient. We're messy and we make mistakes all the time. You make mistakes on purpose? The aliens asked, sounding shocked. Sometimes, Lim replied. Sometimes the best ideas come from accidents or crazy thoughts that shouldn't work. Dr. Chanho brought up another screen. Let me show you something else. This is how we first decoded your signal. The screen showed the work that the Neptune station team had done weeks ago. It was messy and chaotic, with different people trying different approaches at the same time. 5 humans worked on this problem, Chanho explained. But they didn't join their minds together. Each person thought differently. One person tried mathematical approaches, another looked for patterns, a third used intuition, and so on. This should not work, the alien said. Chaos cannot solve complex problems. But it did work, O pointed out. We solved your impossible mathematics in a few hours. The aliens were quiet for a very long time. When they finally spoke, their voices sounded different, less certain, more confused. If humans can do what should be impossible, then perhaps other impossible things can be done. Colonel Ryu sensed the change in mood. Are you saying you might be willing to fight the Devourers instead of just running away? We have been running for so long, the alien said sadly. We have lost so many worlds, so many friends. We are tired of running. Then let's stop running, Admiral O said firmly. Let's make a stand. But how? The Devourers are too powerful. They change reality itself. They make the laws of physics stop working. Dr. Chanho grinned. Well, if they can break the laws of physics and we can solve impossible mathematics, maybe together we can do something that surprises them. You would fight beside us? The aliens asked. Even though you are so young as a species? Even though you have never seen the true power of the Devourers? The signal was not for humans, Admiral O replied, but we answered anyway, and now we're going to finish what we started. The aliens made that untranslatable sound again, but this time the translation system found words for it. They were crying. Not from sadness, but from something they had not felt in millions of years. Hope. Very well, the Kethva Alliance said. We will try the impossible one more time. We will fight beside the humans who answer signals not meant for them. And for the first time since the Devourers had begun their march across the galaxy, the running stopped. Captain Kang Min-ho stood on the bridge of Earth's first battlecruiser, the Soul's Pride. Through the front window he could see the strangest fleet ever assembled. Human ships flew alongside alien vessels that looked like crystal flowers, metal clouds, and burning stars. "Status report," Kang said to his crew. "All ships are ready," replied Major John Kyung-soo, the fleet's battle coordinator. "The HFY Alliance has shared their shield technology with us, and we've shared our new weapons with them." Dr. Shin Yu-jin looked up from her science station. She had spent 6 months creating weapons that should not exist, devices that could fight creatures who bent reality itself. "The reality anchor systems are online," she reported. "All ships are equipped with them, but we won't know if they work until we meet the Devourers." Engineer Moon Haiwan checked her instruments. "The quantum disruption cannons are charged and ready. If our theories are right, these should be able to hurt the Devourers." "And if our theories are wrong?" Kang asked. "Then we'll improvise," Haiwan replied with a grin. "It's what humans do best." 3 weeks earlier, long-range sensors had detected the Devourer fleet entering human space. They were exactly as terrifying as the aliens had described. The Devourers didn't travel in normal ships. Instead, they moved as writhing masses of dark energy that twisted space around them. Where they passed, stars grew dim, and planets cracked apart. The laws of physics seemed to break down in their presence. Radio signals stopped working, gravity became unpredictable, and even light began to behave strangely. "They're not just destroyers," Dr. Shin had explained during the planning meetings. "They're like a virus that infects reality itself. Everywhere they go, the universe becomes sick." But humans had an advantage that surprised everyone, including themselves. While the HFY Alliance could only think of logical ways to fight, the Devourers humans came up with dozens of crazy ideas. Some ideas were terrible, others were brilliant, and a few were so strange that even the aliens couldn't understand them. "Incoming transmission," announced the communications officer. "It's from the lead HFY ship." The screen lit up, showing the familiar flowing form of the Keeper of Memories. "Human fleet," the alien said. "Our sensors detect the Devourer advance force approaching. They will reach us in 2 hours." "Understood," Captain Kang replied. "All ships, prepare for battle." As the fleet moved into position, Kang thought about how much had changed. 6 months ago, humans didn't even know aliens existed. Now they were, leading a war to save the galaxy. The first sign of the Devourers was the way space itself began to look wrong. Stars that should have been blue appeared red. The darkness between stars started to move like liquid, and a sound began to fill the void, a terrible humming that made everyone's teeth ache. "There," Major John pointed at the sensors. 5 contacts, but they're not showing up properly on our instruments." Through the window, the crew could see them now. The Devourers looked like giant black storms made of lightning and shadow. They moved without any visible means of power, sliding through space like oil through water. "All ships, activate reality anchors," Dr. Shin ordered. Around the human fleet, the air began to shimmer. The reality anchors were working, creating bubbles of normal physics around each ship. Inside these bubbles, the laws of nature worked the way they should. The Devourers seemed to notice this immediately. They changed direction, moving toward the human fleet with terrible speed. "Here they come," Kang said calmly. "All weapons, fire, when ready." The battle began with a flash of light that could be seen from Mars. Human quantum cannons fired streams of energy that glowed like miniature suns. Alien crystal ships shot beams of pure mathematics that turned space itself into weapons. For a moment, it looked like their attacks had no effect. The Devourers absorbed the energy and kept coming, growing larger and darker. But then something incredible happened. One of the Devourers flickered like a bad television signal. Part of its dark form became transparent, and strange colors showed through. "We heard it," Engineer Moon shouted. "The reality anchors are working." The battle became fierce and chaotic. The Devourers fought by changing the rules of physics around them. They made gravity pull sideways, turned light into poison, and caused time to move backwards in small areas. But the human ships, protected by their reality anchors, could fight back. And more importantly, they fought in ways the Devourers had never seen before. While HFY ships moved in perfect formations and fired in coordinated patterns, Human ships did something completely different. They scattered in all directions, attacked from unexpected angles, and used tactics that made no logical sense. Captain Kang ordered his ship to fly upside down while spinning. Major Jian had some ships retreat while others advanced. Dr. Shin fired weapons at empty space, knowing the Devourers would move into those areas to avoid other attacks. "What are you doing?" the Keeper of Memories asked over the communication system. "Your tactics make no sense." "Exactly," Kang replied, dodging a wave of twisted space-time. "The Devourers have fought logical enemies for millions of years. They know how to counter every smart strategy, but they don't know how to fight stupid ones." The plan worked. The Devourers, used to fighting predictable enemies, couldn't adapt fast enough to human chaos. When they tried to counter one human ship's movements, 3 other ships would attack from directions that made no tactical sense. But the real victory came when Engineer Moon tried something truly crazy. She fired her quantum cannons not at the Devourers but at the space around them, creating pockets of normal physics in the middle of the twisted reality fields. "It's working," Dr. Shin shouted. "The Devourers can't maintain their reality distortion when we create stable physics zones around them." One by one, the Devourer advance force began to fall apart. Their dark forms flickered and faded as the reality anchors forced normal physics back into the areas they had corrupted. The last Devourer tried to escape, but the combined human and alien fleet surrounded it. In a final desperate move, it tried to collapse a nearby star to create a black hole. But Captain Kang had one more impossible idea. "All ships, fire everything at the star," he ordered. "Sir?" Major John asked. "That will make the collapse worse." "No," Kang smiled. "It will give the star so much energy that it can't collapse. Sometimes the best way to put out a fire is with a bigger fire." It worked. The star, overloaded with energy from dozens of weapons, stabilized and began shining normally again. The Devourer, caught in the explosion of normal physics, dissolved. Like shadow in sunlight, the battle was over. For the first time in millions of years, Devourers had been not just fought, but completely defeated. "Impossible," the Keeper of Memories whispered. "We actually won." "The first battle," Captain Kang corrected. "Now we have to win the war." As the victorious fleet regrouped, every being in the galaxy who was watching realized the same thing. The humans who had answered a signal not meant for them had just done something that should have been impossible, and they were just getting started. Fleet Admiral Go Seung-hwan stood in the war room deep inside Earth's moon. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of ships from 100 different worlds. The largest space battle in galactic history was about to begin. "Final status report," Go said to his staff. Dr. Yang Mi-young looked up from her psychology station. "The Devourers are using a new strategy. They're not just attacking randomly anymore. They're learning from our previous battles." Commander Kim Ji-ho, Earth's best pilot, studied the tactical displays. "They've adapted to our chaos tactics. This isn't going to be as easy as the first battle." Professor Li Wujin walked over from his research station, his face pale with exhaustion. For months he had been studying captured Devourer energy, trying to understand what they really were. "Admiral," Li said quietly, "I've made a discovery. The Devourers aren't what we thought they were." "Explain," Go replied. Li activated a new, holographic display. It showed swirling patterns of energy that hurt to look at directly. "The Devourers aren't just creatures that eat reality. They are reality, or at least a version of it. They're what happens when the entire universe becomes one single mind." Everyone in the room stared at him. "That's impossible," Yang said. "No more impossible than humans solving alien mathematics," Li replied. "Think about it. The HFY Alliance told us that advanced species must choose between individual thinking and advanced mathematics. But what if some species chose to go even further?" He changed the display, showing how the patterns connected across vast distances. The Devourers represent the ultimate collective consciousness. They've absorbed so many species, so many worlds, that they've become a single entity that spans multiple star systems. They don't just think as one mind, they are one mind, made of billions of absorbed civilizations. Commander Kim felt sick. You're saying every species they've destroyed is still alive inside them? In a way, yes, Lee nodded, but not as individuals. They've been absorbed into the collective, their thoughts and memories becoming part of the devourer mind. Admiral Go understood immediately. That's why they can counter every logical strategy. They have the combined knowledge of every species they've ever absorbed. Exactly, Lee said. But that's also their weakness. They can only think in ways that their absorbed species could think. And every species they've absorbed was logical, unified, predictable. Except humans, Yang realized. Except humans, Lee agreed. We're the first truly chaotic species they've encountered. That's why our tactics worked in the first battle. But now they're learning from us, trying to understand chaos. Alarms began ringing throughout the moon base. The final Devourer fleet had arrived in the solar system. This wasn't just a few scout ships. This was their entire force. Dark masses of corrupted reality stretching from Mars to Jupiter. All ships report status. Go ordered. Over the communication system, voices from dozens of species replied. Human captains, Kethva memory, keepers, crystal beings, and fire creatures all confirmed they were ready for battle. This is it, Go announced to the combined fleet. Everything we've learned, everything we've built comes down to this moment. The battle began immediately. The Devourers had learned from their previous defeat. They no longer moved in predictable patterns or used the same reality-twisting attacks. Instead, they tried to copy human chaos tactics. But something strange happened. When the Devourers tried to be unpredictable, they failed. Their chaotic movements were too perfect, too calculated. It was like watching someone try to dance randomly while following sheet music. They can't do it, Commander Kim laughed over the radio. They can't be truly chaotic because there's still one mind trying to act like many. Then let's show them what real chaos looks like, Admiral Go replied. The human fleet scattered in all directions, but this time they coordinated with the alien ships in ways that made no sense to outside observers. Crystal ships fired through human shields. Fire beings used water creatures as weapons, and everyone attacked in patterns that changed every few seconds. But the real breakthrough came when Professor Lee tried his most dangerous experiment. Admiral, he called, I'm going to try to communicate with the Devourers. What? Go replied. How? If they're really a collective consciousness made of absorbed species, then maybe I can reach the individual minds trapped inside. Lee activated a new communication array that he had built in secret. Instead of sending normal radio signals, it broadcast something else entirely. The mathematical language of individual thought. The effect was immediate and terrifying. The nearest Devourer mass stopped moving and began to flicker like a broken light. Strange sounds filled space. Voices speaking in languages that had been dead for millions of years. It's working, Yang shouted. The individual minds are trying to break free. But the Devourer collective fought back, trying to reassert control over the awakening individual thoughts. The battle became not just physical, but mental and philosophical. Admiral Go made the most important decision in human history. All ships, he broadcast, stop fighting their bodies, start fighting their minds. Broadcast everything that makes you individual. Your dreams, your fears, your stupid ideas, your personal memories. Show them what it means to be yourself. Across the fleet, thousands of beings began broadcasting their individual thoughts into space. Not their species' collective knowledge, but their personal experiences. The human who was afraid of spiders. The crystal being who liked to sing off-key. The fire creature who wrote bad poetry. The effect on the Devourers was devastating. Millions of absorbed minds, exposed to the concept of individual thought for the first time in eons, began to remember who they used to be. Commander Kim flew, her fighter directly into the largest Devourer mass, broadcasting her memories of learning to fly, her fear of heights, and her love of terrible Earth movies. Where her ship passed, the dark energy began to separate into distinct patterns. The collective is breaking apart, Professor Lee announced. The individual minds are remembering themselves. What happened next was beautiful and terrible. The Devourers didn't die, they transformed. The single massive consciousness split. into millions of individual beings, each one remembering their original species and identity. For the first time in millions of years, the absorbed civilizations were free, but they were also confused and afraid. They had been part of a collective mind for so long that individual thinking felt strange and frightening. Dr. Young immediately began broadcasting calming thoughts, showing them that individual thinking didn't mean being alone. The HFY Alliance joined in, sharing their memories of cooperation between different species. Admiral Go spoke to the newly freed beings. "You don't have to choose between individual thought and working together," he said. "You can be yourselves and still be friends. You can think different thoughts and still help each other." The transformation continued across the entire Devourer fleet. What had been dark masses of consumed reality became millions of ships carrying the rescued civilizations of the past. Some of the freed species were so old that they had been absorbed before the current galactic civilizations even existed. Others were recent victims, including the Veltar whose signal had started everything. As the last of the Devourers completed their transformation, a new voice spoke across the communication channels. It was ancient and tired, but also filled with wonder. "We had forgotten," the voice said. "We had forgotten what it was like to be ourselves. The collective promised us unity and wisdom, but it gave us only emptiness." "Who are you?" Admiral Go asked. "We were the first," the voice replied. "The first species to choose collective consciousness over individual thought. We created the Devourers billions of years ago, believing that unity was the highest form of existence. We were wrong." Professor Lee understood. "You were trying to force the entire universe to think as one." "Yes," the ancient voice admitted, "and in doing so we destroyed the very diversity that makes life beautiful. But you have shown us another way. You have proven that different minds working together are stronger than one mind working alone." As the Great Fleet began to disperse, with freed civilizations returning to rebuild their worlds, Admiral Go thought about the signal that had started it all. The Veltar signal was not meant for humans, but humans had answered anyway, and in doing so they had saved not just their own galaxy but millions of civilizations that had been lost to forced unity. The universe was about to become a much more interesting place, filled with different kinds of minds thinking different kinds of thoughts, but working together toward common goals. And somewhere in space, monitoring stations were already picking up new signals, messages from species that had learned the value of diversity, addressed not to specific civilizations, but to anyone willing to listen and answer. The age of answered signals had begun,